everyone. Welcome to our Women Together Connect, our Tuesday noon Eastern gathering of our community here, and a warm welcome to those of you who have been here many times before, and also a warm welcome to those of you who may be new. I'm just checking to see who's in the room and who's here. I see some of the greetings, the hellos already coming in. Feel free to put your hello and share where you're coming from, anything that you'd like to about just where you are today in the chat. So if you at the bottom of the Zoom screen, click on chat, you can type in a little hello. My name is Antoinette and I am back home and happy to be landed in my little garden, my little space here, and to reconnect with all of you from here. And to dive into today's topic, as we will in just a few minutes, around nature as our teacher, or nature as our guide. And it's a topic that is very dear to me, but also just coming home from Alaska and being with the people and the place there. I feel very much in flow and in attunement with my own nature and cycles, and coming from that place, feeling the sense of possibility there as well around nature. So I see we're coming in from Nyack, from Sweden, from Boston, from Philadelphia. I'll look forward to seeing where the rest of us are coming from. I see Winchester, Mass. Nature is cloudy today. So there's our external nature, so what's going on in the world and in our places, and then there's the interior condition, the inner nature, right? So Tampa Bay, Florida. Okay, I see a few more places coming in. And if you're on YouTube, you can also type into the comment section on YouTube and share where you're coming from today. And it's nice to just get a sense of our geography, a sense of where we all are, where we're calling in from, and how we're connecting here today. So feel free to keep typing those in, and we'll dive into just a little first tiny practice. So a tiny practice is just a way for us to land here together. And it's a practice that you can take anywhere. So you can just do a moment of stillness before you start anything, or when you're in the middle of something, just take a moment and land, allow yourself to ground and to reconnect. So the idea with tiny practices is we can do them anytime, we can do them anywhere, and that they help us to just be with ourselves in any given moment or space. So I'll invite you to just feel your feet on the ground, or get into a comfortable position where you can feel a sense of vertical alignment. So a lot of the time we are in this kind of horizontal plane. We're talking to each other, we're talking to our partner, we're talking to somebody, we're having this kind of horizontal experience. And the invitation is just for this moment to align with a more vertical experience. So that could just be head, heart, and gut. It could be feeling the spine, a place that we it's always there for us, but we don't always attend to it unless there's a pain or something like that. So just feeling a sense of connection to the spine today. Feeling both a connection of the sit bones to the chair or the cushion, and also feeling an alignment up through the spine, up through the top of the head, the crown of the head. And you can close your eyes or lower your gaze if that feels possible for you. And as we shared all the different places we're coming from, connecting also to this inner space. So just connecting for a moment to the inner space. And the space happens between the thoughts, or between the emotions, between the sensations. There's space. So just giving yourself a moment as you take a breath, as the breath moves in and out of the body, to just focus on the space, even the space between the words that you hear, or between the sounds that you hear. Just focusing for a moment on the space. And as you just notice if your mind began to wander, if thoughts started to stream in like little clouds coming in, passing the blue sky, welcoming them, being aware of that, and then just letting them go. And then noticing what brought you here today. What brought you here for this connect experience, this moment to connect with others in this space. I'm just noticing if any kind of intention arises. And if you'd like to, you can type it in the chat and share what's coming up for you, what brought you here today. You can reconnect with the screen and with our Zoom. And then I'll read a few out if anyone has thoughts to share about what brought you here today. Connect with other women, a pre-solstice connect, an hour of connection and community. After being away, it's always great to reconnect. Togetherness. It's wonderful. I think those are great places to start. So I'd love to just dive into our topic for a little bit, and I'll invite you to journal for a moment or two. And then I will, I'll invite you to journal and turn to each other as we always do. So in Connect, the point is for us to journal and just reconnect with ourselves, or do a tiny practice or a few tiny practices to just reconnect with ourselves. And then we'll turn to each other in small groups and connect to each other, which is great. And so if you're in Zoom, you'll be able to do that. If you're on YouTube, you'll be here for the first bit of our just tiny practices. So a little bit of, I'll share some of the thinking that I have around nature as our teacher, and invite us into a little journaling. And then that's it. We'll connect with each other. So are you hearing echoey feedback? Sounds robotic. Is that what's happening? Is it my microphone? That's the question. Okay. Melanie says yes. Everyone says yes. It might be my computer. In which case we might just have to deal with it. I can try to get another device. Okay. For the moment, while I go grab a different microphone, I'll do that. Yes. I'll invite you to just think about a place in nature or a particular being, like a flower or a tree or a body of water. Just consider a body of water, a tree, a nature place, or being that you feel drawn to. So just think about that for a moment while I grab a different microphone. All right. Is the sound better now? Yay. All right. So glad we had a little fix. Wonderful. So now my video is going to be funny, but here we are. Oh, live sessions, right? One sec. Okay. That may or may not be better. Not better. Hold on. Okay. Okay, hopefully this is working. Is it okay? Great. All right. So we'll just stick with it. So wonderful. What we'd like to do then is just dive in for a few minutes here on this idea of nature as teacher. If you have a journal, you can grab it. And the thinking that I've been working with, especially spending time with the Tlingit Haida communities in Alaska, was around, and also from a dear friend who does a body of work. His name is Giancarlo Pucci, and he is in Costa Rica. And the work that we think a lot about is the idea of inner nature, and also the idea of we are nature. And so this experience of how do I kind of see something as being outside myself? Like I see this tree, or I see, so for me, I was thinking about this fiddle leaf fig tree. It's this being, it's there, it sits in my house, and it's sort of grasping for the sun, needs to be watered. It's trying to put everyone out of everybody else, all the other plants out of its way so that it can get what it needs, and in some ways, that is part of my experience as well, that I'm not separate from that tree. I'm not different in some ways from that tree. And I think that's true for all parts of nature. So there's always a lesson that we can learn. There's always something that nature is trying to teach us, and our bodies are nature. Our even our thinking, it's all part of nature. So, there isn't this kind of separate experience. And at the same time, our ability to see something as separate. There is that tree, and it has a green leaf, and it has a brown stem, and, has roots, and it looks this way to me, etc. That's a real experience. So giving ourselves an opportunity to work with that in every moment we can be learning a lesson from this tree. In every moment we can be learning a lesson from the ocean or this experience. And I think there's also one more little piece that I wanted to share, which is around the idea that as humanity, we've had a history of wanting to control or dominate nature. And so we've, our history, whether we like it or not, but typically men have gone out into a new place and seen it as problematic, or, we need to tame nature and we need to commodify nature. And so this idea of how can we actually learn from nature and listen to the rustle of the leaves and hear a message for ourselves, or what needs to happen, or in certain communities you can hear different types of wind, and each type of wind or type of rain is trying to tell us something about what's needed. The soil is also always trying to tell us something. So whether or not we can grow certain vegetables or plants or things like that, we can ask these questions. Science can help us find the answers of what we can read the tea leaves literally and physically. But so this experience that I think we can all have with nature, it's always available to us. It's like the breath, or the way that I was talking about the spine. There's always an availability in that. And so it's kind of shifting our mindset and mentality from, I just need to prune this tree, to looking at, how does this tree actually want to be pruned, and looking at the branches and looking at the ways that it's growing in a way that we can be in connection and in alignment with the experience of the growth of that tree and the growth of this life. So that's a little snippet. And what I'd like to invite you to do is, you were hopefully thinking about a being, a nature being. And if you can call to mind that nature being, so it's either a tree, a flower, a body of water, or it could be, part of the body or something like that, but just something that you might define as nature, and something that you feel when you're with that being. You feel joy. It could be a bird, it could be an animal. So just connecting to that nature being, and just allowing yourself to be with that nature being, even in your mind's eye for a moment, and considering, what are the gifts of this nature being? So if, for example, I was to take an eagle, the gifts of this eagle is that it can fly, it can see from great heights, so it has big vision. So just thinking about, what are the gifts? What are the gifts of this nature being that you feel drawn to right now? And then, what are the thorns? So I love that Lisa just put in the chat about Maria Rodale's new book. And she said they have a chapter on a journey with weeds and pests, etc., that are all necessary in nature. And I think about this, like, what are the thorns of, let's say you have a rose or you have a weed or something like that. What are the things that make it a problem? What are the parts of it that are problems? So if I'm thinking about the eagle, I think about, its talons. If I tried to let an eagle land on me, it might, it could it can hurt me. So just thinking about, what are the thorns of that being? Doesn't mean they're good or bad. It's just, what are the thorns? So every rose has a thorn. I was thinking of a water lily. It might be that it's super muddy all around it. You know, it could be anything, but what are the thorns? And then considering the rhythm or cycle of that being, what is the rhythm or cycle? So obvious, like most obvious, is that the trees, they have this cycle of losing their leaves. So they come through a cycle of springtime, and even if it's not exactly in the same in every place, it's that they go through this budding, they go through a process of fruiting, they go through a process of losing their leaves. So every being in nature, including us, and especially as women, we have cycles of our lives. So just considering, what is the cycle? What are the natural cycles? What are the cycles of this being? And or just what is the rhythm? Could be that the movement of the ocean or things like that. What is the rhythm or the cycle of the being? And if this being could speak, if this being could tell you something today, what information, what message would it have for you? What lesson? If this being could speak, what would it tell us? We'll give just one more minute or a few more seconds um, before I come in again. I love Laurel just shared in the chat here. Sunflowers greet the sun as it rises from the east, follow the sun through the day, and rest with the sun as it sets in the west. It resets every day until the flower is fully bloomed. It's an important lesson for us to reset every day. She said each day is a new opportunity to live fully. So sometimes those lessons from nature are just immediate. You watch the sunflower and you can see that happen every day. I have a little, I have a lot of plants, but looking at how they open, how they close, how they greet the day, there's always something that we can take from this experience of being with nature, and recognizing the places where nature is actually always living within us, that we are always part of nature. And there are many people who identify with a being in nature as part of who they are. And so just recognizing if there's something that is in nature that you're more called to, it may be that that's something you're working on or around or being with in this time of your life, or could be over a much longer time, maybe your lifetime. And just noticing, what animal are you drawn to? What plant are you drawn to? How does it make you feel? How does it make your skin change if you're with that being long enough, if you're in that air? So just recognizing what comes up, what lessons you have to learn. So we'll turn to each other and we'll share here in Zoom. If you've joined us on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. We'll be back with Brahmini, one of our favorite teachers, next week. And if you're here in Zoom, we'll turn to each other for about 20 minutes, and then we'll still have 10 minutes for group discussion. So enjoy the time together in breakouts, and we'll see you back in 20 minutes.